My mom didn't cry. She didn't ask questions. She didn't shout. She just said, "In the backyard," and then added, "Seriously, Julia. That's not a real wedding. That's a garden party for people who can't afford better." Then she hung up. That's when I knew she wasn't coming. Not because she was busy. Not because of illness or conflict. But because my wedding, to her, wasn't worth showing up for. It wasn't grand enough, glamorous enough. It didn't put her center stage. I sat on the porch for a long time after that. The cold wood pressed into my legs, the chill wind slipping through my sweatshirt. I held the phone like maybe it might ring again. That maybe she'd call back, say it was a joke, say she didn't mean it. But no sound came, just a still, heavy silence. Malik came out with 2 cups of tea. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He handed me a mug and sat down beside me. The steam between us felt like its own kind of understanding. She said no, I finally whispered. He nodded. I added, because it's in the backyard. I let out a small, hollow laugh. No ballroom. No chandeliers. No fancy place settings or wine pairings. Just lights we strung ourselves and vows spoken in the yard we built a life in. She imagined herself in it, Malik said after a beat. And he was right. It was never about me. It never had been. My mom didn't care about the handmade lights I spent months designing from scratch, or how we transformed our yard into a blooming, glowing haven. She never asked why we were keeping it small or why that space meant so much to us. She didn't care that we were choosing meaning over spectacle. She asked one thing weeks ago, with a sneer. "You're not doing it potluck style, are you?" She didn't wait for the answer. It's odd, isn't it? How some people reduce a wedding down to appearances. My mom didn't care who I was marrying. She cared how it would look, what people would say, what kind of photos would end up online. She didn't want to be there for my wedding. She wanted an audience. Still, I sent her a formal invitation, printed, tied with silk thread, embossed. She never RSVP'd. When it arrived, all she texted was, "Looks like something a homeschooled kid made." I almost laughed. She was the one who homeschooled me for 3 years. What do you do when the person who raised you tells you, without even raising her voice, that your life isn't worth showing up for? You grieve. Then you move on. You hang the lights. You press your dress. You write your vows again. And you remember who you are. Growing up, I always felt like an afterthought. The quiet second daughter. The one who wore hand-me-downs and wasn't in half the family photos. At Rachel's wedding, the big one, the one Mom still boasts about, I wasn't a bridesmaid. I wasn't even seated with the family. I was behind the scenes, holding a clipboard and walkie-talkie, making sure the timing worked and the food stayed stocked. I wore discount shoes that gave me blisters. I remember Rachel's dress, all imported silk and beads, and how Mom cried as she fixed the train, like she was preparing a queen. "You'll get your turn," she whispered when I tried to step into a photo. My turn never came. I got errands. Tasks. Orders. But never presents. The only photo of me from that wedding is a blurry shot of me wiping down the cake table. Someone once tagged me in it and joked I looked like the help. I didn't correct them. So when I told Mom we were having a small ceremony, no bridal party, no speeches, just vows and shared food, she blinked. Small, she repeated like I'd said, criminal. Then she said, "That's disappointing. Don't you want something memorable?" I did. Just not for the reasons she thought. I wanted a wedding I'd remember, not one that lived in her photo albums. A week later Rachel called. I thought maybe it was a peace offering. Instead, she said, "Mom thinks you're sabotaging your wedding. She says you're afraid of being seen." I said thank you and hung up. They didn't get it. They never had. What I was doing wasn't sabotage. It was reclamation. This wedding wasn't a performance. It wasn't a PR moment. It was my life. And I was going to live it without asking for anyone's approval. The morning of the wedding, the sky was a soft grey, the kind that makes colours more vivid. I stood barefoot on our back porch, looking at mismatched chairs tied with bits of ribbon. Paper lanterns swayed gently above. Inside, Claire was steaming my simple cream dress, the one she'd sewn herself, with pockets. Malik's cousin set out name cards printed on seed paper. No calligraphy, no glitter. Just quiet intention. Every choice we made came from love. No stylists, no makeup teams. Just me, twisting my hair up and tucking in 2 gardenias. When I stepped into my dress, it didn't feel like a costume. It felt like something holding me together. Claire looked at me in the mirror. "You look like yourself." I nodded. "I feel like myself." At 4:12 p.m., the ceremony began. No music, just the sounds of birds and footsteps on gravel. Guests entered quietly, like stepping into a sacred moment. Malik stood waiting on the garden path, trembling. So was I. We had no officiant. No script. We spoke to each other, not to the crowd. I don't remember our exact words, only the feeling. Like finally being still after years of running. Dinner was served from big pots. Plates were passed down the table. Someone hummed along to Van Morrison. Laughter carried into the trees. And when night came, our yard lit up, our handmade lights glowing like captured stars. Claire leaned over and whispered, "It looks like a film set." But to me, it looked like home. And I knew my mom would never see it. Not the way it really was. Not the way it felt. Our friend Devon filmed the wedding, not like a wedding videographer, but like a documentarian. Just 90 seconds of raw beauty. Malik nervously wiping his hands, me tying a ribbon on a jar, us dancing barefoot beneath lanterns pretending to be stars. It made me cry. Malik said, "She made it feel ancient." Then he asked, "Is it petty if we post it?" I posted it with no hashtags. Just, October 8th. Home. Love. By morning, it had over 20,000 views. By dinner, over 50. A blog reached out. Then another. The video went viral. Not because it was trendy, but because it was real. Rachel left a voicemail, "Why didn't you tell us it would look like that?" My aunt texted, "Didn't know that wedding video was yours, gorgeous." Then my mom finally messaged, "Is this the wedding I wasn't invited to?" I stared at the screen. She had been invited. She just chose not to come. Later, she followed up, "You made us look bad. People are asking questions. You could have warned us." Warned them? She wasn't upset she missed the moment, she was upset it looked good without her. I didn't respond right away. But a few days later, Malik said softly, "You should let her see it. Not because she deserves it, but because she clearly doesn't understand what she missed." So I sent a message. "If you want to understand what happened, come to the studio Friday at 3. We'll show you the footage." She showed up late. Wore pearls. Of course. Sat like she was touring a museum she didn't care for. But when the film played, no narration, no edits, just sound and truth, she grew quiet. At minute 20, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath the whole time. When it ended, she said, "It looked expensive." Then, "You didn't say it would be like that." I asked, "Would it have mattered?" She didn't answer. "You were invited," I said. "You just didn't show up. You made us look like we didn't care." I tilted my head. "Did you?" She didn't reply. I walked her to the door. "I didn't know it would be beautiful," she said. "That's the point," I said. "You didn't care to find out." She left without a hug. I didn't expect one. And that silence that followed, it felt more honest than anything she'd ever said. I didn't get invited for the holidays. No one officially cut me off, but no one reached out either. It was a quiet exile. And I was okay. Not in a triumphant way. In a grounded way. The way you finally stop knocking on a door that never opens. 6 months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a photo from Rachel's wedding. One I'd never seen. I was in the background, holding a tray. My face turned away. On the back, I looked right past you that day. I see you now. No name. I didn't need one. I slid it behind a photo in our wedding album, one of Malik spinning me under the lanterns, both of us barefoot and laughing. That's the story I'll tell. We did it our way. We planted wildflowers where roses were expected. We fed people from our hands. We danced on gravel under paper moons. And we invited everyone who mattered, even the ones who didn't show. Because in the end, a wedding isn't about who comes. It's about who stays. And when I look at the pictures now, I don't see what's missing.